Good morning and welcome into the show. It is Daniel Wortman coming to you live from the Dream Imagine Sports Studios. It is 8 a.m. on the East Coast, 5 a.m. out west. Thanks to all of you who are watching anywhere in America or around the world on this Thursday morning, January the 30th. Can you believe this month is already over? Wow. Coming to a close quickly. I don't know what it is, but it seems like in the last year or so, time has just begun to fly. I wish it would slow down just a little bit. Because this is just going crazy. But welcome into the show. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're going to do something that I've been looking forward to for quite some time, which is to kind of go back and pull some interviews out of the archives. And this interview that we are going to feature coming up after the break is with Daryl Marcel. And we caught up with him at the 2019 U.S. Soccer AGM in Phoenix, Arizona. We will be in Nashville covering the U.S. Soccer AGM coming up in just a few weeks, and really excited to catch up with a bunch of friends that are members of the Federation, representatives from different member organizations in the Federation. Look forward to having some of them on the show, having some special features, different things going on. So anyway, all that to say, we are really excited to bring this particular interview out of the vault. And it is a the Daniel Workman Show interview. It is a Soccer Works live at the bar of the U.S. Soccer AGM series that we did with interviews that we recorded at the 2019 U.S. Soccer AGM, and we're hoping to be able to do something similar to that again this year. We've already heard from U.S. Soccer, and they are aware that we're coming to town. So we'll see how that works out. Hopefully, we don't have any issues there. It was a really, really fun time last year, and a lot of people got a lot out of that, and we certainly got a lot out of it as well. So that's coming up right after the break, and that will be a Soccer Works live at the bar of the U.S. Soccer AGM from 2019 featuring Daryl Marcel, and we are excited to bring that to you. Yesterday, Liverpool had a game in hand. They were already 16 points clear of Manchester City with a game in hand. That game in hand came as a result of them having to go and play in the Club World Cup, and that meant that their match against West Ham United was postponed. Yesterday was the makeup day. So they were 16 points clear of Manchester City, already a massive lead. Last year, they were 9 points clear going into January, and they lost the lead. This year, they're at 16 coming into the end of January with a game in hand. They're away at West Ham. This is a venue last year that they were fortunate to draw. If that match was played this year, Liverpool would have lost that match last year because I believe in the build-up to the Mane goal, James Milner was slightly offside, but there was no VAR. This year, there's VAR, and that would have been overruled. This year they come in and trying to just keep momentum, right? Just keep their foot on the pedal, keep their foot on the gas, continue to just push forward and really try to force, this title run to come to a close as quickly as possible. You can tell that the players, not that they want to take their foot off the gas once they clinch, but you can tell like they are playing with a purpose. They have a mission, and it is one of the most impressive things about Klopp's management this year in that he has just got these guys on mission. They have a vision. They have a purpose. They are resolute. They are committed to the task. They are diligent. They are putting in the work. You are seeing it game in and game out. It's not always the prettiest. It's not always the flashiest, but you can see the commitment level. Not everything is clicking. Even right now, when you watch them play, it's not quite clicking offensively, but they are just so tough to play against. They just want to choke you, the life out of you. They don't want you to be able to have any kind of possession. They don't want to give you any time on the ball, and that is all 11 players on the field. That's not a few guys in the middle doing all of the grunt work. That is everybody on the field. They are just constantly coming at you. And yet again, yesterday, they go to play at West Ham, and Origi, starting for the injured Mane, draws a penalty. Salah steps up, buries it, 1-0 going in at half, coming out into the second half, and West Ham gets a corner, and off of that corner, this is one of the things about Liverpool that is so impressive, and it reminds me when we had MSN at Barcelona under Enrique. An opponent's corner under Luis Enrique, when he was the manager of Barcelona, was one of the most dangerous things a club could have. You would think that a corner kick for your team in possession would be a good thing. But if it didn't go in and it got out to Messi, Suarez, or Neymar, buckle your seatbelt because you were going to pay. And they have carried that mentality and tactic, and it is not an accident. I mean, it's one thing if it happens once or if it happens once in a while. When it happens consistently, it's a tactic. It is rehearsed, it is planned, and you can tell they have found something in studying opponents that this is a moment for Liverpool to defend the corner and basically go on a fast break like in a basketball game. And they just go at you. And today they did it to West Ham. They were another victim of this tactic. And West Ham unable to get anything on the corner. It gets headed out and they just go. And Salah's bringing up the ball, plays a beautiful outside of his left foot, his preferred foot pass, arcing around the West Ham defender right into the path of Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who, while that ball is coming to him, is just thanking the heavens, thanking God that he found a way out of Arsenal into Liverpool because he is having the time of his life. The ball comes into his pathway. He, has to stay strong. The defender's trying to knock him off the ball. He stays strong, stays on the ball, and slots it around the goalkeeper. Liverpool win 2-0. They win their game in hand. and now are 19 points clear of second place Manchester City. I don't know about you, but I don't think anyone at the beginning of the season thought that Manchester City would be at this point of the title race 19 points back. A lot of people were predicting Man City to hold off Liverpool, or for Liverpool to, may take the title, but it was going to be like last year, a neck and neck race that ended up with Manchester City 1 point clear of Liverpool at the end of the season. In fact, it has been just complete and utter commitment to a mission. And Manchester City's had the misfortune of some injuries. They've not been able to stay healthy, and they've not been able to keep pace, quite frankly. And Liverpool are now 19 points up with a win at West Ham, and just unbelievable. I never thought going into the season that Liverpool were going to have this kind of margin heading into the spring. And there's just such a feeling of resolve. Just brilliant stuff. And just unbelievable. 19 points clear. Just crazy. Also yesterday, there was some Carabao Cup action. Manchester City going into the rematch against Manchester United had a 3-1 lead going into the second leg of the Carabao Cup match with Manchester United. They lost at home 1-0, but see out the tie as they hold on and aggregate 3-2 and advance in the matchup with their Cross City rivals, winning that one 3-2. So, in other matches, you had Inter Milan knocking out Fiorentina in the Coppa Italia. Real Madrid beating Zaragoza 4-0 in the Copa del Rey. And PSG in the Coupe de France winning 2-0. When we look at the transfer deadline for Europe, there were some moves that were made. One of them was a move that probably needed to get made at least 6 months ago, and that was Christian Eriksen leaving the Spurs, heading to Inter Milan. I think both sides just needed that to happen. They needed kind of a new challenge, and so we're seeing a little bit of movement there. Manchester United bringing in Fernandes on an €80 million deal, but the news of the day yesterday was certainly Liverpool's victory with their game in hand. No longer having a game in hand, turning that thing into 3 points. And it's just a magical season going on for Liverpool, but well earned, with 70 points from 24 matches, plus 41 goal difference. And, Manchester City in second place with 51. Leicester City 22 points back in third place with 48 points. And they are third biggest piece of this. It's just the resolve of that team, the resolve of the management, the staff, to stay focused, to stay locked in, to find ways to keep players rotating and keep players fresh. All of those things working together, just incredible stuff there in Liverpool. And, certainly looks like that they are finally, for the first time ever, going to win the Premier League, which is something that the city of Liverpool and the club itself and its supporters have been longing for a very long time after having all of that success in the top flight of English football prior to the formation and branding of the Premier League. Just an unbelievable season there in the Premier League, and looking like for sure that they're going to be first-time winners of the league. Speaking of being a winner, you can be a winner by going to ductigbrand.com, DUKTIG brand.com, and there you can find incredible notebooks, cards. I use this stuff with my own teams and planning out sessions and planning out how we're going to play or Welcome back to the show. Thanks for tuning in on this Thursday, January the 30th. Coming up right now, we are about to bring out of the archive an interview with Daryl Marcel. There's a lot of background noise, just to give you a little bit of a heads up, because this Works Roundtable Edition at the bar of the U.S. Soccer AGM, and delighted to have our guest, Daryl Marcel, who is stopping by to have a quick chat. Daryl, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you at now, and where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago.
Okay.
Played soccer for Trinidad and Tobago. Attended school at Howard University and lived in Maryland for over 20 years, and moved to Seattle, Washington about 8 years ago to be an assistant director to the second largest club in the state. Since then, started my own club called FC Bellevue and was a state director for an academy within the state.
So you came over, I guess, for college from Trinidad, is that?
No, my family migrated to the U.S. when I was an infant.
Okay.
Raised in New York City, moved to Maryland when I had to go to college, obviously, and
right.
Since then, just lived and slept soccer.
Right. So you're living and sleeping soccer, which is awesome. That's our life as well in my house. So you're in Bellevue, Washington. You are the director of coaching for your club.
Correct.
And you also do coaching instruction, kind of college recruiting, and one of those things. What are some of the challenges that you've seen in running your own club within your setting there in Bellevue?
Well, if you know anything about Bellevue, it's some at our club. We're trying to produce college players and beyond, but from a small club aspect, it's difficult because of the surrounding clubs that are in the area. So we do everything we can to try and get kids in. Our program's a little bit different We offer speed and conditioning training and different things to enhance the athlete, college education to teach the parents how their kids get recruited. A lot of parents don't understand the recruitment process. They think if they're playing at a big club that's going to get them, or they're playing in the ECNL, or that's going to get them the college track. And 9 times out of 10, that's not it. It's networking, who your coach knows, how you're educated, how you market yourself to actually be seen by some of these college coaches.
So, what kind of player backgrounds do your players come from? Are they, upper middle class? Are they, from, what's kind of their general?
30% of my patrons are scholarship kids.
Okay.
Right. So my club's very diverse. I have very wealthy people in the club. I have middle class people in my club, and I have people that are not as fortunate as others in the club.
So a little bit about my background. I started my own club a few years ago. You wouldn't expect that kind of diversity when you're thinking stereotyping Alabama. Right? And yet we were able to pull that off. And most of these kids came to us from outside the system. So one of the things that U.S. Soccer is always trying to figure out is, how do we get more kids playing? How do we get more kids in the U.S. Soccer family is another expression that you'll hear. Have you had any issues trying to bring kids into organized sanctioned soccer, or has scholarships kind of been the solution, or is it just been, explaining the opportunity to families? Like, what is your experience of
It's
that?
been a little bit of all of it. Educating the parents, I think, is the key, because when you hear Premier Soccer, automatically parents see a price tag. Like, what is it going to cost? That's the very first question that they ask, right? So for me, it's tapping into that network of players that can afford, because in my experience, those are the players that are hungrier. Those are the players that will work harder for you. Some of the kids that we deal with are very privileged. So, they take a lot of things for granted, in my opinion. And everything's handed to them. When you deal with the inner city kids, they show up to practice, they work hard, they're a little bit more courteous, and they're eager to learn how they can excel in the sport, because for a lot of them, that's their way out. There's no other way out for them, In Seattle, I'll use my area, I live in a city called Issaquah, which is a neighboring city to Bellevue, but
connect with any kid that wants to do great at soccer, wants to learn the game, love the game, developing the game, regardless of socioeconomic status or background. What, as you kind of look into the future with your club, what are your goals? What are you trying to build? Where are you trying to go?
When I hear about it's funny you say that, because Premier Soccer should be a first and second team only, right? But it's become so much of a moneymaker that some of the larger clubs are A, B, C, D, E, F, right? Some of those teams are just glorified select or rec teams. My goal is to build my club where I have 2 teams in each age group, and maybe a training pool of kids that are not quite ready, and formulate a developmental program to make sure that those players reach their goals. It's been my experience that in the larger clubs, they have the best coaches with the best teams, and I won't say the worst coaches, but the less licensed coaches or less experienced coaches working with the younger teams, or the D, C, E, F teams. How do those kids ever make an A or B team if they don't have superior coaching? So in my club, what we do is we put our best coaches, our highly qualified coaches, with the developmental and the players that need more help, so that those players reach their goals. And then when tryouts come around, instead of me looking for players outside of my own club, I can just pick from my club, right? I can develop within.
Have you seen that that's working? Like by doing that process? Have you seen that that's working?
Absolutely. So my club's, a very small club, and we already produced a national team player. So for me, that young lady has been with us since she's been 9 years old. She's currently, 14 years old, and she's competing at the international level, which speaks volumes to what we're trying to do, or what my staff is trying to do at FC Bellevue.
Where have you gone to find coaches? Are you training them? Have you tried to recruit in coaches? Or are you developing coaches at the same time as you're trying to develop players? Kind of where are you at with that?
So a little bit of both. We're a United Coaches Association member, so we post online for job opportunities for coaches. I go out and I recruit. What I've done, because my club is so small and we can't pay what some of the bigger clubs do, I go out and I find ex-college players or current college players that want to get involved in coaching, and I train them, and the club pays for their certification so that they can get educated in the sport, because we all know that playing the game is one thing, but teaching it is something else, and you have to get educated in how to translate what you know through muscle memory onto the field for these young kids that want to learn the game.
Right, for sure. So as you are, looking at the club that you have and the club that you're trying to build, you're trying to develop, one of the questions that I have for you that I often ask when I'm talking to someone who's running a club, especially like a club.
So we have a club-centric approach at FC Bellevue where we do like a circuit training with the kids. So all the coaches in the club know all the players. All the players in the club know all the coaches. The kids go from grid to grid to grid. For an example, like on a Monday will be our technical day. Everything that we do on that day will be technical, including speed and conditioning trainer that's implemented. And then on a Wednesday, we'll do a tactical implementation of the things that we want them to see them do throughout the week. Our Friday training session, we incorporate both, where it'll be a small-sided game where they have to incorporate what we've taught them Monday and Wednesday. The Italians do it this way because they say you're hands-on, and that you can see every player. The worst thing is that you have coaches that may have multiple teams, and you have to send an assistant coach that's not familiar with the kids, right? And parents hate that, right? So in this club-centric training atmosphere, as I said, all the kids know the coaches know the players. We all warm up, like for certain age groups, warm up a certain way, so that when a coach steps in or has to step in, everyone's in the norm. They're not doing anything that they're not used to make them jittery before a game, or the coaches know them by name and they can identify what player can do what, and it just makes it instead of being a soccer club, we're more like a family, right? Because we all know each other, and we kind of work together to develop the kids within our program.
Yeah, it's a very more, just listening to this description, I like it. It's a more organic, natural process, of relationships between players, between the coaches, and everybody involved. Where you're right. I mean, if you go into a typical coaching, the development of your players, but also I think it's the development of your coaches.
Yeah,
I think that makes more well-rounded coaching as well, where you don't get in a rut of, I've got these 15 and that's it, or these 12 and that's it.
That's right.
But you're seeing, because you may see in those circuits, I can only imagine that you see another coach doing, maybe gives an instruction, I didn't look at it that way.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Does that make sense?
It does. And what my experience has shown me is that in most clubs you get one coach with 19 kids, and 15 out of the 19 are technically sound and can do the things that you're asking them to do. But what about the 4 that are hiding? They get lost in translation because they're not as good technically. They don't want to be pointed out. When you have this kind of circuit training or club-centric approach to training, these kids can't hide because the groups are smaller. There are more eyes on the players. And now you can give more individual time to the players that need extra development without holding them back from the other group, and without having them be isolated or feel that they're less inferior to the group that they're actually playing with. So this way you see the players develop a little bit faster because they're getting individual time and the coaches now, instead of managing 19, they're managing 8. Right.
That makes sense. So the Lance had this club. I know you said originally you went out as an assistant with another club, and then you started your own. How long have you had this club?
I've had this club. This will be the 5th year.
5th year. So year 5. You're in year 5 now. What are the pathways for players that when you're talking to a kid or a parent, what kind of advice are you giving them? Like, what should they be looking for? How should they be trying to make connections for future opportunities?
Well, I think a big part of that is the coaches. The coaches are the biggest marketers of their players, right? The network that the coaches will help open doors for players. College side, if you're in a smaller club like myself and you're affiliated with another club that has a DA, your players will have the opportunity to actually play in that environment until your club can create those opportunities themselves, right? So for me, we just try as every avenue that we can to knock down doors. I'm knocking on doors all the time. Like, I'm here to knock on doors to find out, what's going on in the state, what's going on within U.S. soccer. How would it affect my club? How will it affect the state that I live in? How, will it affect the players so that we can try, to sound funny, but I went to the AGM in Hawaii, and the average person's age at that AGM had to be 65 years old. There was probably 10 women total. There was about 7 people of color. And at this AGM, as you can see in the last couple of years, it's progressed where it's becoming more diverse, where you're seeing more women get involved, you're seeing more people of color here get involved, you're seeing younger people getting involved. And that's one of the big things that I question all the time. Like, where's the bridge between the old generation and the new generation of coaches or administrators for U.S. soccer? We look around in the room now, we're probably 2 of the youngest guys here, right?
Right.
So for me, it's networking with some of these guys to gain some of the knowledge, to find out how we can open doors so that guys like myself that are passionate about the game could get more involved and try and make a difference.
So has there been this weekend any kind of information or breakout session, meeting, anything that stuck out to you? Did you pop in any of those sessions, or has it just been more general?
It's been general. I went to the general meeting today, and sat there this morning and listened to it's a lot of information. It's a lot of information being given. It's a lot of things that they're trying to change, but nothing really stuck out to me. Everything that was on the table are issues that I've heard in the last 4 years. Last year the big thing
against at times from some of these that are almost like soccer machines.
Correct.
Right? Are you in favor of merit-based competition, where
absolutely
sporting merit?
Absolutely.
So one of the things that I think is that I'm all for marketing, promotion, and all of those things, but it's getting our clubs into systems based on merit and not might.
Correct.
Right? Whether that might be financial, whether it be political connections. Instead it's, hey, I've got a group of kids and they're really good and they've earned their way into this opportunity, rather than gatekeepers.
Correct.
Right? So as someone who has started a club, you're 5 years in, you're building, if you could look into the future, say 5 years down the road, where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing by that point?
I want to do exactly what I'm doing, developing kids. I don't want a big club. I just want to help the kids that want to learn and not make it a cash cow, and that's more what I see these days. Clubs, instead of educating and developing, they're gathering numbers to generate revenue, which is fine, right? It's the name of the game. Everything revolves around money, more or less. But when you're dealing with kids, your heart has to be in a different place.
Right.
So for me, I come up against several obstacles, but we look past it because we're not trying to get too big. We just want to have, like I said, 2 teams in each age group and develop those play where a premier club should be with 2 teams. I'm good with that. Futuristically is putting our kids, all the kids that come through our program, have the opportunity to play college at some point to gain an education.
So you spent some time in Italy.
Yes.
You're here in the States. Compare the two.
Night and day.
In what way?
It's free in Italy. They handpick their kids, and they come into the academy. They eat, live, and do everything together. They develop a club-centric kind of family atmosphere, the same atmosphere I'm trying to develop for my club. And it's, while I was there, we'd go, Empoli is based, centrally in Italy, and we would go all the way down to Rome to look for one kid, and that lived in a tenement, really a small house with four people living in it, and 1 bedroom, and take that kid from that environment and put him into the academy where everything's paid for and the parents don't have to worry about schooling or anything. Here in the States, it's the complete opposite. We pick you, but you got to pay. So, it goes back to a conversation I was having earlier. The DA and ECNL, those are for kids that can afford. If you look at U.S. national team soccer, we've picked, our national team players from the DA in the last 12 years. What have we done? Right? And those are the kids that can afford. We haven't qualified for Olympics. We haven't made the Sweet 16 in the World Cup. We haven't won a World Cup.
Magic wand, and you were king of U.S. soccer for a day. What would you do with it? What would you change? What would you...
I would implement a better scouting system to identify players in inner cities and rural areas that can't afford. I would do away with this pay-as-you-go DA programs and stuff like that. That should be fully funded. If we're really trying to pick players to represent our country, we should be paying for it. Not after they reach a certain level do we take them. We have to invest as in a country in the development of our players, not just because they can pay, but that they can play. So for me, my magic wand would be, hey, get rid of all these acronyms that everyone chases after, and let's focus on the kids and develop the players within the country. That's what other countries in the world are doing, and we are not doing that the same thing. Our approach to it is completely different.
Awesome. You've been great, man. Such good insight. And for everyone out there listening, are you on social media, Twitter, or anything like that?
I'm on social media, yes.
Okay. You got any Twitter handle or any way that people can follow you, get in touch with you?
FC Bellevue.
Okay.
On Instagram and on Facebook.
Okay.
Daryl Marcel on Facebook. Daryl Marcel on Twitter.
Awesome.
or Instagram.
Fantastic. Well, Bud, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
It was great having a chat with you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
This episode is part of the SoccerWorks Roundtable series, live at the bar of the U.S. Soccer organization that provides clean drinking water to people all over the world, and you can be a part of that story by going to charitywater.org. They are doing incredible work. Make their story a part of your story today. We'll be right back after this.
No one, no man, no woman, no child should ever have to drink green water with bugs, with algae, with disease in it. Bad water and a lack of toilets kills more people than all the wars in the world. We know how to bring clean drinking water right now to every single person on earth. And when you can bring water into communities, it truly transforms them. It changes everything. Or you could know that you'd made a difference. You could know that you had truly impacted the life of a family, of a community, of a region. There was either clean water or there wasn't. We believe in a world where every single person has clean and safe water to drink, and we will continue fighting until that happens.
Thanks for watching the show today. Thanks for tuning in as always. Hope you enjoyed that clip from the archive. /WRKMN on DanielWorkman.com, YouTube, Twitter. Catch me on Instagram or Twitter at Daniel Workman. Thanks as always. Thanks for watching the show. We'll see everyone again tomorrow.
पहिला म पनि बच्चा अवस्थामा रहँदाखेरि मैले यो कल्पना गरेको थिइनँ कि तर अहिलेको बच्चाहरूलाई मैले सोद्धाखेरि अथवा उनीहरूलाई क्लासमा गएर तिमी के भन्ने भनेर भन्दाखेरि उनीहरू बच्चाहरूले 1 क्लास 2 क्लास 3 क्लासका बच्चाहरूले उनीहरूले सहजै रूपमा चाहिँ अभिव्यक्त गर्न सक्छन्।
म टिचर बन्छु, सोशल वर्क इन्जिनियर।